For this book review, I read 1491 by Charles Mann. It was published in 2005 by Knopf Publishers. And I read the whole book, cover to cover, every word on every page. When the book first came out was in 2005. I was engaged to, and in 2006 married an archaeologist. Sorry, it's hot out here, but so I married an archaeologist. So a lot of my friends, the people I was spending time around were archaeologists who did incredible research, and so they discounted a journalist who was compiling a book about archaeology. And so a lot of my bias initially of this book came from that, and so I was given it as a gift and kind of skimmed through it and didn't really give it much thought or much credence, just because everyone around me was kind of ignoring the book, even though I remember getting on a plane in, I think, 2006, 2007, and it seemed like literally everybody sitting on the plane was reading this book. It was a phenomenal book for getting the concept of pre-Columbian Native Americans into the hands of into the minds of the public. This go around, I found it an really enjoyable read. It's long. It's not the shortest book, but it's an easy read, and it's an interesting read if you're wanting to learn about pre-Columbian Native Americans. He covers a lot of territory, and as a journalist, I still, even reading it this time, kind of felt he was pushing a certain agenda with the way he wrote and what he wrote, as far as he wants people to understand that Native Americans were here far earlier than we like to believe they were, or want to believe they were, and that they were much more complex societally than we have believed them to be. One story in the book that I really resonated with was when the Europeans first came to the New World. The Native Americans thought that they were some sort of supernatural being, and this actually happened to me and a group of friends in Zambia. We were in a very rural area where we were the first white people that they had ever encountered, and so they ran from us and thought that we were vampires, which I still don't know how they came to that conclusion. But the leader of our group, who knew the chief of the tribe and who had spent time with that chief in the past, I guess at a different tribe or not with the chief's tribe, took time just rebuilding trust with him before we could even get into their village. And so that seeing somebody who looked different as being supernatural still occurs. And also he does a good job of pointing to the American Indian, Native American concepts and ideas of developments that were good for the needs of the tribes, and while they didn't have quite the same technological advances as the old world, they still had several adaptations that were superior, as far as their canoes or moccasins or arrows and that sort of thing. But as far as lesson plans, I thought this book was great for helping build background knowledge and understanding. There's a great section on the Mississippians and that culture, which for most of us, that will be the group of Native Americans that we are correlating to our students. And I am, well, my dad, if he chose to do the paperwork and all the things necessary to do it, could be part of the Cherokee Nation, but that's because I believe it is my great great grandfather, yes, was Cherokee Indian. But the only story I know about him is that at some point in his life he was chopping down trees, one fell on his leg, and he had to remove the leg while trapped under a tree and chop off his own leg. And while that is an intense and incredible story, that is pretty much all I know about my Native American heritage, is that that man was willing to do what he needed to survive, because there was no one coming to help him. No one knew exactly where he was. It was well before any kind of communication devices that would allow him to be able to seek help. And so he did what he needed to do to get out of the situation. But whereas with my Welsh or English ancestry, I can trace that all the way back to individual towns, city-states or towns or provinces in those countries. And I think that's one thing that we as educators can help children with, is finding ways to connect with their heritage. But as far as lesson plan, the biggest thing is considering life then to life now, because the Mississippians didn't build massive ziggurats, didn't build monuments to themselves in kind of the way we understand a monument. There are some amazing places left that show that they were there. I'm actually leaving to go tomorrow to Dauphin Island, and there's one there that is literally where they dumped shells from where they were eating. And so I think that we can help point to ecologically sensitive and ecologically intelligent children or students, and help them build an understanding that the people that were here way before us were very attuned with nature. They used nature, but they used their technology to help them live in nature in ways that we no longer really do. But yeah, definitely building that understanding of who we were before and who we are now, and just how to tie that together to help students understand that there were people here who had very complex societies, who had families, who had a love of the land that they love. I mean, most kids love being outdoors, so we don't really ever teach them that it's good or bad to love being outdoors. But I think this would be a great opportunity to link the knowledge of Native Americans with the love of land and love of preserving land. But yeah, this book was a good read for understanding kind of cursory, because it covers a ton of geography and a large time period. But gives a great background into understanding why Native American culture is something that we should care about, and why it's something that should have a lasting impact on us as a people, especially in the Americas, but also how we can take what we know and expand on it. I think that's probably the greatest thing he did, or the greatest thing about this book, is that it expands our knowledge of Native American culture. And since then, more stuff has come out, more research has come out that has built upon what he published. And Yeah. Yeah, but if you are looking for a book on understanding pre-Columbian history, and this does a good job of condensing it because it is such a massive field of study.